All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're uncovering the fascinating and honestly kind of surprising Roman history that is buried right beneath modern Austria. We're looking at a crazy story of war, ancient philosophy, and how modern towns remember or, as you'll see, sometimes completely reimagine their own pasts.
So let's jump right in with a question that really reorients how we view the ancient world. You know, when we think of Roman emperors, we usually picture them lounging around at marble palaces in Rome, or maybe attending gladiatorial games draped in a purple toga, right? But the reality for one of Rome's most famous rulers, the philosopher king Marcus Aurelius, was drastically different. He actually spent years of his life roughing it in the cold, muddy frontier of modern-day Austria. But why?
Well, to figure out what he was doing there, we first have to picture the Danube limes. Recently recognized back in 2021 as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, this wasn't just a river. To Rome, this was literally the edge of the civilized world. It was this heavily fortified military line keeping the Roman Empire separated from the fierce Germanic tribes up north. If this border fell, the very heart of the empire was exposed. And in the 2nd century AD, that border was under massive threat.
Okay, our first stop on the river is the ancient cavalry fort of Commagene, which is now the modern Austrian town of Tulln. Now, it didn't just pop up overnight. Starting out as a basic wood and earth camp way back in the late 1st century, it slowly evolved into this massive, heavily fortified stone stronghold. As the threat across the river kept growing, it became an absolutely essential gear in the Roman military machine.
And I mean, Tulln is absolutely obsessed with these Roman roots today. It's wild. You can literally walk through the city right now and touch a 3rd century horseshoe-shaped Roman tower, or the remains of the ancient double gate. But it goes way beyond just old ruins. The town boasts a Roman museum, a Marcus Aurelius park, and, get this, even a local middle school named after the emperor. They've totally woven him into the fabric of everyday life.
But the crowning jewel, that sits right by the riverbank. In 2001, the town unveiled a towering bronze monument of Marcus Aurelius on horseback. It's actually a replica of the famous Capitoline statue in Rome, and they positioned him so deliberately, he is glaring fiercely northward, right across the Danube, staring down the ancient territory of the enemy Marcomanni tribes. It's just this incredibly striking, powerful image of imperial authority guarding the frontier.
If you walk around to the back of that exact monument, you'll find this really powerful quote from the emperor's own writings. In English, it translates to, "Life is short. The only fruit of the earthly existence is an upright disposition and charitable values." Think about that for a second. Here is a guy with the power of life and death over millions of people, reflecting on how fleeting life is and focusing on the importance of just being a genuinely good, charitable person. It's a profound reminder of his deep Stoic values.
Okay, are you ready for the twist? Because there is a massive historical twist here. Despite the statues, the sprawling parks, the middle school, despite Tulln's absolute devotion to this guy, there is actually zero historical proof that Marcus Aurelius ever set foot in their town. Seriously, none. It's entirely symbolic. His actual, verified military headquarters during this brutal war was located farther down the river, in a place called Carnuntum.
So, the crucial point we need to make is that Carnuntum wasn't just some basic camp. It was the absolute bleeding edge of the Roman frontier. Around 166 AD, Germanic tribes had totally overrun Roman territory. The situation was so dire that by 171 AD, Marcus Aurelius basically had to travel to the front lines personally. He chose Carnuntum as his strategic staging ground to push the invading Marcomanni and Quadi tribes back across the river.
And hey, we aren't just guessing about this, we have the ancient receipts. The historian Eutropius confirmed the deployment, noting that the emperor, quote, lingered at Carnuntum for 3 years without interruption. Just let that sink in. 3 grueling years, far away from the comforts of Rome, enduring those harsh Austrian winters, personally directing a massive, bloody war from that exact spot.
And get this, it was actually a true family affair out on the front lines. His wife, Faustina the Younger, actually traveled into the war zone to be with him. The troops adored her. I mean, they loved her so much that they gave her this incredible title, Mater Castrorum, which means mother of the camp. It's such a beautiful detail, right? It shows how these weary, exhausted soldiers really started viewing this freezing, dangerous military camp as their literal home, and the imperial family as their own.
For me, this is what makes this whole explainer so fascinating. The contrast is just, wow. Picture this scene. The most powerful man in the world is living in a freezing military camp, entirely surrounded by the bloodshed and chaos of the Marcomannic Wars.
And what is he doing in his spare time? He's quietly writing the second book of his self-reflections. He's sitting there, actively commanding a war, while penning a timeless work of Greek Stoic philosophy about human nature, duty, and morality.
Right, but philosophy and military tactics weren't the only things saving the Romans on this frontier. We have to talk about one of the weirdest, most legendary events of the entire military campaign, the miracle of the rain. What exactly was it, and why did it become such a big deal?
The ancient sources paint a seriously terrifying picture. A Roman legion was completely trapped deep in enemy territory by the Quadi tribe. They were cut off from all their supply lines, baking in the heat, and literally dying of severe thirst. They were totally doomed. And then, out of nowhere, boom! The skies rip open with a massive, violent downpour. The Romans drank the rain, regained their strength, and actually defeated the enemy. This event was considered so incredibly monumental that they literally carved it right into the Marcus Aurelius column, which still stands in Rome today.
Now, what exactly caused this miracle? Well, it really depends on who you ask. Traditional pagan authors claimed it was a direct sign of divine benevolence, the old Roman gods stepping in to save their beloved philosopher king. But Christian sources claimed something else entirely. They argued the rain was a direct answer to the desperate prayers of Christian soldiers serving within the Roman ranks. Because of this, historians view this whole event as one of the very earliest signs of Christianity's rising influence in the Austrian region.
So, bringing it back to today, how do we keep this history alive? Well, cross-border initiatives like the Living Danube Limes project are actively working to ensure that this ancient heritage is protected for future generations. They are doing the crucial work of preserving both the mythic symbolic monuments of towns like Tullin and the hard, archaeologically verified facts of Carnuntum so we can keep studying and appreciating them. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought, directly inspired by the philosopher king himself. Marcus Aurelius wrote a lot about how quickly life passes and how soon we're all forgotten. Yet 2,000 years later, a town he probably never even visited has built statues in his honor and named schools after him simply because of what he represented. It really makes you wonder, if the legacy of absolute power is so unpredictable, how will the things we do today be remembered or reimagined millennia from now? Thank you so much for exploring the Roman Danube with me today. Keep asking questions and keep learning.